drink with me. Hey!
Welcome to Have a Drink with Me. I'm your host, Dylan Polniak, and joining me today is comedy writer and performer Sam Kimbrell. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. We haven't met in person, but I've seen a lot of your fun tweets, and you've got a lot of like little sketches on social media. So that was the reason to like hit you up and be like, you need to come on the show. We need to drink and talk. So with that,
that's awesome. Yeah.
I think you're very funny. And so you had a drink of choice for us to do for this show.
Yes. So I am not a fancy guy, as you can tell. I'm wearing a T-shirt with a raccoon on it. So like whenever I go to buy drinks, I have friends who definitely are very knowledgeable in making drinks and things like that. But when I go to get drinks or buy them, I always just go to Trader Joe's and then I say like, oh, that looks fancy.
Yeah.
And what's fancier than like Francis Ford Coppola, wine. So I get the Francis Ford Coppola wine. So that way the people at Trader Joe's think I'm fancy, even though they're nice about everything. Trader Joe's folks, like you can get the worst item. You can get like, chocolate covered dates and like, I love these. I feel like no matter what, but today I have the Francis Ford Coppola Diamond Collection. I definitely use this when I'm watching classic movies, which is what we're discussing today.
Yeah, awesome. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Don't do wine, so I'm just going to drink out of the bottle.
Fair.
My wife just told me downstairs, oh, you're not going to put it in a glass or something? I said, no, I don't see the point. I'm not going to enjoy it. And she's like, but you're talking about Rear Window, a classic movie. You should get dressed up. You should have a fancy glass. So I put a Have a Drink with Me T-shirt on. I just took the bottle of wine right upstairs to the office, and here we are.
Yeah, you know what? What I do is I put on TCM all the time, and it's really great to like watch these old classic movies and like create characters from like old classic like movie actors and things like that. So it's like I feel like being kind of loose and fun is more important than kind of looking dapper. My girlfriend's the same way though. Like be fancy. It's like no, I just need loose.
yeah. I'm drinking wine out of the bottle. I don't need to be fancy.
Yeah. I
do want to say there's a very interesting connection between this episode and the previous episode because our previous guest, Chad Opitz, is actually playing a young Francis Ford Coppola in Goliath season 4 on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
So what a great segue to Coppola.
Yeah.
This is his, right? Coppola. He's still making it?
I think it's made from his tears from when he was making Apocalypse Now. He cried so many times that they turned it into wine.
Oh, wonderful. So you're not a fancy drinker, so raccoon shirt?
Well, one of my friends does like a YouTube channel for like how to create really like cool drinks. He had this whole series on how to make like Bond drinks, like from movies, from like James Bond movies, and it's like awesome. Whereas like with me, anytime I start looking at him making them, I don't have like half the things to make them, like a jigger and a thing and lemon zest and different types of alcohol. I just want to go to his house and he can make it for me. I'll pay for everything, but he can make it for me.
Yeah, I'm always the same way with that too. I'm like, oh, I would love to make like the correct measurement of a cocktail as well. Like a White Russian, I would, 2 parts this, 1 part this. No, it's just I pour it until the ice is wet. And then I pour this thing, and then I pour this thing. I just recently purchased a shaker thing. What's it called?
Oh, the martini shaker?
Yeah, there you go. Like
Yeah.
I don't know the technical term because I'm drinking wine out of a bottle.
Yeah.
So.
A bottle.
So our topic today is Alfred Hitchcock movie, Rear Window. Is this one of your favorites?
It's one of my favorite Hitchcock movies, and it's one of my favorite classic movies. And one of the things like I feel like now when you watch classic movies, there's always the question, does it hold up?
Yes.
Could a story like this be made today? And I always think it would be really funny that like if someone tried to make this today, you basically just like hold up your phone and just record the guy as opposed to like the speculation. But there's also this great thing with Rear Window where he's looking into the different like apartments and it connects back to his character and Grace Kelly's character. And it's like, that's sort of the fun of this movie is that it's not necessarily about him finding out the murder. I mean, it is and it isn't.
Yeah.
It's kind of about him and relationships and his character. And I always think that's That's what sticks out for me the most with classic movies is, does this character still feel relatable?
Yeah.
And I definitely feel that with Jimmy Stewart in this movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've never seen an Alfred Hitchcock movie until
What?
I watched this last night.
Okay.
I've never seen a Jimmy Stewart movie until I watched this last night. And
Really?
I've also never seen a Grace Kelly movie. So I grew up on Star Wars and I loved it so much
That's fair.
that that's all I did. But now my father-in-law is just like, oh, we're watching, oh geez, what was Dr. Zhivago, and we're going to watch this and all this. And I'm like, okay, so now I have to watch these older movies. And when I watch them, does this movie hold up? So
yeah,
not to be a complete asshole, but going into this movie, I was thinking, I'm going to hate this. And maybe the first 5 to 10 minutes, I was thinking, yeah, I'm going to hate this. But I kept an open mind, and through it, I was just like, I love this movie. It was
that's cool
because it's quiet. I think I can't really speak for Alfred Hitchcock because I've only seen one of his movies, but if you've got a quiet movie and you hit the points that you need to hit, then the movie deserves to be quiet. You don't need like action. You don't need endless stuff. And that's what I appreciate about this movie is it's very much, we're looking at a window. Jimmy Stewart says something. We look at another window. Someone shows up. He gets a massage. Fade to black, dip to black, dissolve, Adobe Premiere. And then it's the next day. But it's like every single thing made sense. There wasn't like filler stuff. So it was, I very much appreciated this movie, and I'm so glad you picked it.
It was made also in a very short amount of time. I want to say it was something like a week or 2 weeks. It was shot on the Paramount lot. And what's great is the first time I saw it was at Cinespia, like behind the Paramount lot at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. So like it was projected up on a wall, and there was lots of people there, and it was kind of fun. I definitely like encourage people, if you're going to have to watch a classic movie and you're like, ah, damn, I don't want to watch a classic movie, because I get that way too. Watch it with somebody that you'll enjoy it with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go to New Beverly if you still can, or go to watch the Cinespia like screenings, because they're fun to watch them with other people.
Yeah.
We went to a screening of Blazing Saddles a year or two ago at New Bev, and like the jokes are still amazing, still off color and offensive for today, but everybody in the audience was laughing with it and sort of like with the movie.
Yeah.
And it's fun. So I definitely think classic movies are fun with groups.
Oh yeah, for sure. And with Blazing Saddles, I know this episode isn't about Blazing Saddles, but also like that movie knew that movie knew that it was being off the cuff. Like it was pushing boundaries, and that was the point of it. It's not one of those movies where they said something and then they were like, oh, I can't believe they said that. It's like, yes, they said it for the shock factor rather than to prove some kind of like terrible point. And but yeah,
and co-written by Richard Pryor as well. So it's like that movie has a story behind it. Richard Pryor was supposed to play the sheriff, but the studio didn't want him as the sheriff.
No way.
So I mean, it's co-written by him with Mel Brooks and a bunch of other comedy writers.
We'll do that for the next episode. Blazing Saddles.
Sure.
But fair. Rear Window. I never knew about the original one. I always knew about the Christopher Reeve one.
Oh, that's interesting.
Never saw that one.
First,
no, I never saw that. Yeah. I just knew about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it and obviously first Jimmy Stewart movie, but it was like also the movie was shot in black and white, so they had to recolor the whole film. So I saw the recolored version, which I thought they did a great job of. But yeah, what a great movie. I was wondering, like, I thought this was supposed to be a thriller, and it's just kind of like creeping.
Yeah, it's not like to the extent of like, I guess it is creepy. It's kind of like when you watch Hitchcock stuff now, I feel like as a kid our idea of Hitchcock is something a lot scarier and bigger because he's like master of horror and suspense and things like that. But when you go back, you're kind of like, this is kind of what drama is on TV. Mm-hmm. Like it's not necessarily that scary. I think the thing that's interesting about Rear Window that stands out from some of his other movies is it does feel like a character examination. I mean, all of them are, but this one feels a little bit more sitting with Jimmy Stewart. Like, is he going to actually commit to a relationship with Grace Kelly and him being able to see the different compartments of life? Miss Lonely Hearts is devastating. That pianist is haunting. That haunting like score and piano feels like it's able to kind of have you sit in the moment, kind of like what you said with pacing. I think it definitely isn't as scary. I've never actually found like the stuff like Psycho or The Birds. I hated The Birds. I still do. I never found it scary. I always thought it was really, really stupid. It's just like they're birds. It's like, who cares? So like, I definitely think Rear Window feels suspenseful because he can't get up out of the chair. It's pre-cell phone, so he's kind of, he's speculating how much of this is in his own mind. His friend doesn't necessarily believe him, so it starts to build sort of an anxiety more than suspense for me.
Yeah, and that's like the premise of that is still something that lives today, of like, the peeping toms of, oh well, I saw my neighbor do this, and while the movie starts out, it's just like, oh, Jimmy Stewart's just, he's lonely and he's bored, and like that's the way that I thought the movie was going to go, of more of like he's going to realize that Grace Kelly is like this woman he needs to be with, and that the adventure of like trying to find the story is like his downfall. But he's already got like a good thing going on, but then it's like, okay, he's pushing it to the woman from the nurse from the insurance company. I can't think of her name right now, but then she's like, oh, stop it, Jeff, stop it. And then Grace Kelly, Jeff, stop it. And then slowly, like how our culture is today too, is like a little bit of gossip. When that catches, then it's like, boom, I'm right in. And that's how it was. And they used the gossip so well that's when I really got into the movie, and I was like, okay, tell me more about the salesman. Let's get into this.
I also too, there are certain things about like the culture and lifestyle, certain things might be illegal or like really like you're gonna get arrested there for being a peeping Tom. Like it feels so outdated in that sort of sense, but it's still illegal to be a peeping Tom, but it feels so weird for it to be said in a movie because that's not really done anymore. I think today he would be using nextdoor.com and just reporting his neighbor being a murderer.
Oh boy. A Citizens app as well. Just seeing that, like the little ping, there's a video of someone walking through the kitchen. I haven't seen his wife in 3 days. It's like, if you call the cops and you say, I haven't seen this guy's wife in 3 days from across the way, you are going to jail. This isn't going to be a, hey, I'm Lieutenant Doyle, let me look into it. Let me go see if his wife is at the train station. It's going to be like, get your ass out of your wheelchair. We're going downtown.
Yeah. He's a creepy guy, but then he's sort of justified in sort of voyeurism, which is something that Hitchcock was always fascinated by. Someone looking in, peering in, and I feel like he definitely goes into. There's a book. Truffaut and Hitchcock, where Francois Truffaut interviews Alfred Hitchcock. They talk about voyeurism and sort of its influence on Hitchcock's filmmaking, hiding behind things, going from perspectives of Jimmy Stewart. Really interesting, if you notice in that movie, it's either Jimmy Stewart's perspective that's kind of an over the shoulder, or it's looking out as Jimmy Stewart to the different apartments.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. The movie is really simple when it comes down to it, but it feels like you can sit into this world in New York.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was like, fun seeing all the different little stories, and was like, okay, cool. She's a ballerina. He's maybe creeping on her, like he wants to see her. Piano, okay, he likes the piano music. But then slowly it's like, oh, each part of this story involves him, of like, you think this girl's trying to get the attention of every man, but no, she's lonely too, and she's working, waiting for her boyfriend or husband to come back from the war. And like, this other couple just got married, but it seems like maybe they're having a bad time, or the wife's super horny. I couldn't tell the difference.
They pulled the blind down.
Yeah, they pulled it down the first time, and then he kept going to the window and she would shout, Harry. And I wasn't sure if he was like smoking a cigarette because they had just had sex and she wants him to come back, or if he's smoking a cigarette because he's so stressed out that he doesn't want to deal with her anymore. Because they also dropped the whole thing of like, wives no longer nag, they question, or they whatever, they question, or they be part of the conversation. So it's also like, so maybe everyone's love life is just kind of changing, and he's seeing that, but then it still is just like, in the end, he's the villain. The way he treats Grace Kelly, and like she ends up wanting to leave her life to be part of his. Are we supposed to like him, or are we supposed to like her?
That was my one part hang up when I first saw. I was like, wait, he has the chance to be with Grace Kelly. He's a photographer who travels around the world, and he has the chance to be with Grace Kelly, and he's kind of like giving her the cold shoulder. That's one thing I've not understood about certain like classic movies. Like if you watch like old Mickey Rooney movies, like all the girls like swoon over him, but he's such an asshole.
Yeah.
So it's okay. But like Jimmy Stewart, he's kind of a schmuck in this movie because like he's afraid of commitment. He's looking out and seeing what these different apartments and things are like, and then he's kind of cold shouldered to Grace Kelly, who's just swooning over him.
Yeah, and she's
and finally at the end she helps him, and then he falls in love.
Yeah, and she's like she's doing so well, and clearly doing better than he is because he's got a broken leg in a cast, watching people like a creep, and she's out schmoozing and coming home with whatever dinner and stuff and like cooking it for him. She's so fancy, and I mean I kind of get it because he was still like a smooth talker. Like all the lines that he said, it was like, oh, this is funny, and like I could see how like a girl would like that, but yeah, I mean he didn't deserve her, and also he didn't change his clothes through the entire movie, so he probably stunk.
That's a good point. Oh yeah, that's a good factor that comes into play with a lot of classic movies is how much do they stink? Yeah. So there you go.
It was she started the movie saying, this is going to be the week of JB, whatever his name was, JB, Jeff, whatever, JB. And I'm going to come here every night and blah, blah, blah. And then she shows up multiple nights. And he's still in those blue damn pajamas with a cast.
Yep.
Casts stink. So if you've got a stinky cast that is in your entire fupa and left leg.
Yes, it's the main stink area for sure.
And she's like cuddling on him and just, oh, Jimmy. So
maybe that was Grace Kelly's thing because she did leave to become. She left being an actress, so maybe that she was just into a stink.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It could be.
She also one of the nights I believe she brings over like steak and lobster. Like she brings over a nice meal too.
Yeah, that's like
I've never had that accommodation in my entire life.
Yeah, it's like the first night she brings a chef with her to put the food in the oven. Then he leaves. And then she just immediately brings the food out. So it's like the food was like already cooked. So she didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck her. She didn't do much. She just brought someone else to do the work. The movie's just such a great build on relationships and seeing like how neurotic this photographer who looks for action is so bored that he's just looking for action as much as he can, but he's ignoring the actual action going on of this wonderful person wanting to be his whole life. It's nuts.
I wish I had that in my life. I've always been just this look here. So I've never been cool enough for Grace Kelly to come over to my house during COVID and helping me spy on my neighbors. And
that's your only shirt. And then for anyone who can't see lower, Sam is also in a fupa cast with the full leg too. Yeah. I mean, Grace Kelly comes to our house like once or twice a week, and we just have to send her on her way.
I like how Grace Kelly is making house calls to people. Like, she just comes to their house, brings them dinner. Are you okay? You want me to check on your neighbor?
Yeah.
I'll go over and sneak into their house.
Yeah. We just moved into our new house, so I like stare at the neighbors, and then Grace Kelly shows up and she pulls off her gloves and opens her little satchel, and her shoes and stuff pop out. And we're like, no, you can't stay here. The guest room is not ready.
And she shows up in that Edith head dress, and she's just like, well, okay, fine. I stole this dress for you.
Not now, Grace Kelly. But yeah, I'm so glad you had me watch this movie, because the huge thing that stood out for me, Miss Lonely Heart, we're watching the salesman's apartment, and it keeps going down to Miss Lonely Heart. Oh, she's putting a bunch of pills out, and Jimmy Stewart is talking to Doyle. So JB's talking to Doyle, or maybe the insurance lady, but he's like, oh, she's taking a lot of those pills out there, and it's like, oh, she's gonna sleep for a while, and she's just like getting them all ready, and then she's like writing a note, and I was like, that's a suicide note, call the cops. And then they're just like, oh, the camera, the binoculars, or the camera goes back up to the salesman's thing, and it's like you just see like the cigarette or the cigar puff, and then it goes back to Miss Lonely Heart, and she's like ready to go. That's another fun thing of it too, is like you can be so oblivious to what's actually going on, even with like him being a fucking creep on his neighbors. Like he's so oblivious to what's going on because he's fixated on one thing that he can't control. And then luckily Miss Lonely Heart hears the piano. Because I was like freaking out, like, call the cops for her, you fucker.
Yeah, that was like the first time seeing Rear Window. That is the most devastating part. The whole thing with like the murder and things like that for me are like, okay, this is a Hitchcock film, par for the course. But then they have this like devastating character who's lonely and she's like having a dinner by herself.
Oh, yeah, she's like goes and goes for the kiss, pours 2 glasses of wine, and then just.
I think it's something. Yeah, he's kind of like, oh, you're having fun over there.
Mm-hmm. The only problem I really had with the movie is that they killed a dog. That'll always be my issue with any movie. It could be the best movie ever created, but if you kill a dog, I'm not going to watch it again.
I think that was like an old thing too, where it's like not to kill a dog, but if like a dog likes your main character, it signifies to the audience that this is our hero, this is our main protagonist. Whereas like I guess killing a dog is just really off-putting.
Mm-hmm.
As a newer dog owner, I find it off-putting.
Yeah. I mean, I've had dogs for forever. And it's like, if I see, there's only one scene in movie history ever that is funny where a dog gets injured or hurt or whatever. And it's The Life Aquatic. Jeff Goldblum is like, simmer down, Cody. And the dog's not doing anything. And he just hits the dog with a newspaper. But other than that, if you are not Jeff Goldblum, you cannot injure a dog. Whether I see it or not.
It's like a 3-legged dog, too. It's a 3-legged dog, and he goes, be still, Cody.
Yeah.
And he's
be still, Cody.
And it's completely out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of animal moments in The Life Aquatic where it's like your cat died. It's like, okay. Yes.
There's a lot of like very interesting parts. My favorite part of this isn't even acting or film related, but it's the whole set. The set to me felt like a miniature, which I just love so much. I know it was like a small set on probably Universal or Paramount lot or whatever it was.
Paramount, yeah.
But it looked like the details were so basic that it seemed like we were looking at a miniature, and then each window was just a different shot that they added. But then you see as it moves, clearly it's just a room inside, a large scale thing. But I thought that the whole setup of that was just so incredible. And for it to be so close, but then to pretend that they're so far away was like...
That is true, because like if that were in real life, all those people would be hearing each other and seeing Jimmy Stewart if they were that close and all that. Definitely with this movie, you can see the sort of influence on filmmakers like Wes Anderson, the shots where it's just kind of moving, one shot, tilt pan, and going to all these different people in their apartments, and like the score in general, just from that piano, playing the piano, it just immediately like chills me out. Like I don't know how to explain it. There's something that movie does with to use film school terms like the diegesis and non-diegetic sound and things like that, where sound is coming from the movie, but then it's its own score. The only thing that's off-putting is the very last song, which I don't get ever at all, which is this like Lisa. It's like it cuts to the credits. That's the only thing I'm like, that doesn't work.
Yeah, I think the second the credits happened, I was like, all right, I'm out. Like I don't need to know. But yeah, I felt that like the quietness of the film was very good. I came in thinking I'm going to hate this because it's an older movie, but I have to respect it because it's Hitchcock and that's what everyone tells me. But then I thought that everything was like very captivating. I was like, okay, I'm ready for the next scene. Dissolve, dip to black, Adobe Premiere. And then it goes to the next scene. Like, I hate that, but it's like, okay, we're just showing that time has passed. And that's how he wants to show it. And it, like you said, I mean, if they're shooting the film that quick, you said it was like a week or two. I mean,
I wouldn't say it was like 1 or 2 weeks they shot that. It was super quick.
You have to do
you
quick
can understand
cuts.
why.
Yeah. You have to just whatever.
I always think too, like, how did people edit movies? Like you mentioned Premiere, and I, as an editor in Premiere, kind of like just drag and drop things and put it in and good to go. Whereas like I could never imagine even cutting the most basic of scenes not on a computer.
I mean, think of coloring a black and white film.
Oh yeah.
That's like,
I
mean, you would be paid handsomely. You would have a handsome reward to color this film because it's so important. I mean, that would take 6 months every single day. Just you've got to go frame by frame by frame by frame by frame for almost 2 hours.
I'm unfamiliar with the coloring, like actual legit, other than like color grading at now. I'm unfamiliar with the process of like physical color grading. Like obviously, I'm assuming it's very difficult, and the color in that movie is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's very similar to like something like Vertigo or something like that with Jimmy Stewart, where it's like it's kind of rich but also kind of faded, and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, they did a really good job with like the skin tones in the eyes really popped, but like
Yeah,
his hair was just like very unsaturated brown and gray, and then almost everything else in his apartment was very muted.
yeah,
With that too is like, I mean, they shot the movie black and white, but it being a color film, they still like kept the focus on the main character. You know, there's no like red picture frame in the background or something that like sticks out. Everything was just very muted besides the main focal point of what you're supposed to be seeing.
yeah. Well, and also too, it felt like you were in that moment in that year for sure. Like it didn't feel overly done like something like a bigger MGM musical type of thing. It felt like
Yeah.
this feels very real, so, and also focused. Yeah.
Yeah, and a very basic story too. Of homeboys creeping. Now we're getting a little suspicious. And like I would say like through most of that, I was like, oh, Jimmy, come on, that didn't happen. Because then there's the scene where sales boy, whatever they call him, he leaves with the woman, and then we're like watching more stuff, and then my wife turned to me and she said, "Wait, I thought we saw him leave with a woman," which we did, but he left with some other woman and sent her off somewhere. So it's like that's when it's like, hey, you got me. Like something's going on here because I saw whatever it was, or whatever the guy's name is, salesman, run off with some other woman, but that's not his wife because his wife is bedridden and her mattress is rolled up, so she's clearly not there. That's when I was
the
hooked.
giant case. Yeah, everything. Yeah. That movie definitely feels. I go back and watch it quite a bit. That and Vertigo, because it feels like sometimes I feel like when I'm writing, I like try to overcomplicate with more and more plot. Whereas like this is just really simplified into character and just this one moment and living in the moment. That's what like the best TV shows do, and the best sketch teams and improv groups and plays do, is like finding one moment, and it's like every good movie is just like the biggest decision of every character's or of the main character's life.
Yeah.
So it's like in this particular instance, this is the biggest decision he can make in his life at the moment.
Yeah.
Is catching this murder and getting married, or committing to Grace Kelly. So it's like I definitely think that's what stands out with the good movies and the movies that kind of get overdeveloped or overnoted. You're like, wait, what's the importance of this to the main character? And then at the end of the day, Jimmy Stewart's character wants to figure this murder out as sort of a way to figure out his own life.
Yeah,
figure out
for
what's
sure.
going on with his own love life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like his love life is number 2, but the most important thing he needs to do is figure out what's going on with his neighbor across the street, and that's the only thing holding him back. And then
he's such a dude. He's such a dude. Every dude needs to figure something out first before they can commit to a relationship.
Oh,
He's got to figure out a murder and it'd be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I proposed to my wife, and then I said, but there is this murder I've been trailing for a while, and then once that's gone, you and I all the way. You quit your job, and then you're going with me. I'm going to go take pictures of someone. But yeah, that's how it works with literally every person who's ever existed.
Just got to figure that one murder mystery out.
Yeah,
and you're good to go.
Yeah,
maybe that's what bachelor parties should be going forward. Is it's not like strippers in Vegas. It's going to solve
strippers.
A mystery, and then dead strippers.
Yeah,
and then you figure it out. You're good to go.
Yeah. So if anyone can take anything away from this show, podcast, whatever, is if someone has not committed to you, it's because they are trying to solve a murder.
That's fair. I think and I feel like that is something I'm going to start offering as a service for bachelor and bachelorette parties. Maybe it's just you get to solve mysteries, murder mysteries, and then you can actually get it out of your system. Because when you're married or in a long-term relationship, you don't get to solve murder mysteries. You're too busy cooking dinner, watching Rear Window, doing podcasts.
Well, I have to be a part of that then. We'll go 50-50.
Sure. Fair. We'll find our first clients off of this.
Oh, for sure. So, obviously, this is a great movie. And the way it wraps up is just like, when it ended, I was just like, man, that was really good. I really enjoyed it. But do you have any favorite scenes, any favorite lines, quirks, anything that really stick out to you that are like, this is the best or the worst?
So yeah, I've already mentioned the worst part for me, which is the ending in that song. That's the worst part for me. The best part for me is either the piano player, and you actually see Hitchcock, who Hitchcock always makes a short cameo in his movies.
I thought that was him.
The thing that's great is, yeah, so he always makes a cameo in his movies. Most of them. There's only maybe a few that he has not. And I think that was early on, but for the most part, in North by Northwest, he kind of walks by the frame to get on I believe it's like a bus. But with Rear Window, he's like hanging out in the piano player's house and kind of looks at us and then back to his book and then back over, almost signifying that you are watching this movie, you are the voyeur.
Yeah.
That's great. I just, for me, it's that opening score that's really amazing. That that's amazing, and that always gets me in the mood. I think sometimes with scores with classic movies, I always think they're too grand, especially with comedies. In the older time periods, there's this grand score. Whereas with this, it feels like it's an appropriate thing. You're going to sit in sort of a fun thriller movie. I definitely, like I said, the Miss Lonely Heart stuff is pretty devastating.
Yeah.
And that's what I like. I like a lot. I do like seeing the young couple, and the dancer. There's not one scene that sticks out for me personally. There is one scene that sticks out as really gross, which is he takes his shirt off to get a back massage. And this is supposed to be Hollywood movie star, A-lister Jimmy Stewart getting a back massage. And he's got this creepy oatmeal back. And it's funny because they would never do that now, where they take a main celebrity and just make him look like total shit, unless his character was a recover, or not even a recover, some sort of drug addict or something, going through something crazy. It's just Jimmy Stewart with a gross back.
Yeah, just porridge back. Yeah, they wouldn't do that. But also, I think of back then, you had 10 actors back then, and you had 10 actresses, and those were that was it. And now every single person who's ever existed has acted in something now, and that's just the world we live in. So it doesn't matter if you have talent or whatever. So I mean, you look back then, Jimmy Stewart was one of 10 people probably who were A-list. So it didn't matter if he had oatmeal back.
Yeah, I mean, the other actors that Hitchcock liked to use a lot was was Cary Grant, who was also very similar. You could easily
he had oatmeal back as well. Yeah,
he definitely had oatmeal back.
He had oatmeal front,
sure.
I think.
Yeah. I think the thing is with Jimmy Stewart, he has this sort of Americana that's people have always really liked about his sort of his abilities between It's a Wonderful Life or Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. There's a really weird movie with him called Harvey, where he talks to an imaginary rabbit. It's I think the thing is he's got this appeal to him that it's before method acting, where it's just an A-list actor in a movie that's Jimmy Stewart. Here is how Jimmy Stewart would be in real life, so to speak.
Yeah.
I feel that was the big thing with the Hollywood movie system, is just this is Jimmy Stewart in the movie. You don't know the character's name, that's Jimmy Stewart in the movie. And we still kind of have that now too, where it's hey, I'm going to go watch this movie where Will Smith beats up Kevin Hart, and then he talks to The Rock, and they drive in a car with Vin Diesel. It's well, what are their characters doing? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know, but they're too fast and they're too furious. I'll tell you that much.
They're too furious.
Yeah.
They seemed fine at the end.
Yeah. Oh, that's super interesting. I want to end the discussion on this movie with my least favorite scene that I also think is one of the best scenes is the salesman somehow knows where Jimmy Stewart lives and shuts the light off in the hallway. Super creepy. He's in a Jimmy Stewart's in a wheelchair. He's trying to wheel himself over here. Yeah, I can't go. He's going back and he's going back over there. And he doesn't know what to do. And then he had already gotten flash bulbs out for his camera. So also, Jimmy Stewart, lock your goddamn apartment door. Everyone just walks in all the time. So salesman walks in and he's in the shadow and it's super creepy. You can just see his eyes. Brad Garrett and Christopher Lloyd had a kid, and it's the salesman, because that's exactly what he looks like. And he's just what do you want from me? And Jimmy Stewart's well, I don't know, get out. And then the guy I don't have money. No, I don't want your money. What do you want? And then he starts walking towards him, and then Jimmy Stewart shoots off the flash from his camera, and then the salesman grabs his glasses and he's then he walks another foot. Jimmy Stewart does it again, moves his glasses. Then he does it again, moves his glasses, rubs his he does it 5 times. If you see Jimmy Stewart going, just close your eyes. then you don't get hit by the bulbs. But I thought that was like super funny.
You learn something like video games. Yeah, like video games, you know how to beat the boss at the end. Like you make the mistake with Dr. Robotnik.
Yeah.
Then you're like, oh, okay, this is how you beat this Dr. Robotnik. He didn't learn from the very first mistake.
Yeah, the salesman did not.
Yeah, he deserved to get arrested.
The salesman did not play Sonic the Hedgehog.
And I think that's the other reason why it wouldn't work today is that Sonic the Hedgehog theory, he wouldn't be able to defeat the boss the same way.
Exactly. All right, well, we are going to take a quick break. And when we return, we're going to get back into alcohol. And we're going to find out how we can find our good boy Sam here on social media.
Cool.
If you've made it this far into the episode, it's safe to assume you're enjoying the show. You can support this podcast by picking up some merch over at shop.stricterpictures.com. Please like, comment, subscribe, and check out some of the other content we've created on this channel. Thanks. All right, we are back with our wonderful guest, Sam Kimbrell. Where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Sam Kimbrell. You can also find me on Instagram at Sam_Kimbrell. I definitely post jokes and sketches and videos and different weird things all around the web. I'm also working on a new YouTube channel, which is Sam Kimbrell Shorts, where I'm doing the new Shorts product, where it's like vertical videos that are less than 60 seconds, which is really fun. Yeah.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, absolutely follow him. I mean, one of the reasons that I reached out for this episode is because of and I said this on, I don't know if it was recorded, but with my last guest, I was saying, Sam, they aren't dad jokes. They're clever jokes that you would say, oh, why didn't I think of this? But they're so good. Like that's how your Twitter has been. It's been so like, oh, it's so good. Why didn't I write that first?
Oh,
so
damn,
absolutely follow Sam, and I'm excited for the new YouTube channel, and hopefully by the time this episode airs, it's already started and you're thriving with it.
Yeah, I'm assuming I'll be in a boxing match fairly soon by the end of the year with Jake Paul. That's the goal. Fingers crossed.
Oh yeah, because this airs October 6th. So yeah, following week, I think that's when it's scheduled.
That's when I'm scheduled to fight him on Showtime.
Yeah. With a subscription though. All right. So we are drinking wine. You were telling me that you had, you want to talk a little bit about some places you went to drink during some comedy times.
Yeah. So before COVID and lockdown and pandemic part 5 we're in now, I think, like, we used to perform like almost every night at Second City Hollywood, which is not the same level of quality in terms of like the theater itself as like Chicago or Toronto. It's like kind of like a fun, smaller black box theater in Los Angeles. So we'd perform sketches and improv, and then we would go to this place called Bordner's, which is right around the street. It's kind of near Musso and Frank, if you've ever been there, which is like a classic Hollywood place. It's in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So we go to Bordner's and have drinks and hang out with friends there. But the thing that's great about Bordner's that's so hilarious is that the very first couple of scenes in the movie Ed Wood with Johnny Depp, it's directed by Tim Burton, they put on like a crappy community play, it gets terrible reviews, and then they go literally to Bordner's to talk about how like the reviews and like have a drink and hang out with friends. And that was my experience going to Bordner's before the times, because like it wasn't about like the sketches that did well, it wasn't about the jokes that did well, it was about busting balls when things went awry, or somebody going, what the fuck did you say and do in that scene? I have no idea what you're talking about. And then, by the end of the night, you've had 3 baskets of cheesy tater tots and like a bunch of like mixed drinks that were watered down, but like so fun to hang out with friends. And that's what sort of like, this is kind of fun. It's like, have a drink with me. Like you can hang out and talk about like just movies or classic things. The great thing about Borders too is they had these TVs and like they would play like softcore pornography on them. So you're literally talking about things, and there'd just be a giant pair of fake boobs behind somebody's head, and then you're talking about your sketch. So it definitely had this feel of like, we're in Hollywood, we're all holding hands as we jump into the Grand Canyon together. It was great. And like the thing is too, is it's so funny is like, because I like being around people that are like they take it very seriously. They want it. It's not necessarily as a career, but it's like a lifestyle. Like you're writing and you're performing and you're studying and you're learning. And that was the great thing about the people that I had kind of hung out with at Second City is like you go to the bar and there might be 3 people in the audience, but then you're dissecting the sketch that you wrote to make it better. You're like, well, this didn't get a laugh. It's like, well, it probably didn't get a laugh because there was only 3 people in the audience. But like, it's like, but that didn't get a laugh, so I can work on that. And then like working on things and reworking on things. I love being down in the comedy trenches, and I feel like Bordner's was a great spot to go be in the comedy trenches after a show. Because when things went really well, it was like so cool to walk into a crowded bar and be like, oh yeah, you put the guy with the banana split on your head. You're a dumb asshole. Let me get you a drink. Like that stuff is really cool. Like I love that.
I am a dumb asshole. Give me that drink.
Yeah, give me a drink. Like, and then the next day, no one remembers it. But like, I think that is the fun part of like, we get so caught up in like careerism and like achieving. But it is fun to just like, I worked really hard on something. I performed it. It got laughs in front of a full audience. And then I got to have a drink afterwards. Like, can't ask for much more than that. And a lot of people, when they do make it past that point, they're like, I kind of miss that feeling of doing the indie stuff. Now, there are obviously people that get like way big paychecks, but like, it is nice to go back and be an artsy fartsy person on a stage.
Yeah. I've been writing for the last like few years. So I stopped performing improv, stand-up, everything. No one sees my stuff because it's on paper.
Yeah.
And like, but the performing thing is like it's so exhilarating, whether you do well or not, because you do always have that moment after where it's like, oh yeah, I did this wrong, or oh, I said that wrong, or whatever. You get that's that moment of clarity that like knocks you back down to be like, you're doing this for fun, you're doing this for a craft. You're always going to continue to work on it. So great. If you fuck up, or whatever, just keep going.
I love those moments where you kind of like, there was a scene I was in at Second City Hollywood where I was playing a dead body that was supposed to be carried off stage it was supposed to be, you remember those the spray stuff, the glue adhesives, where they put the screen door on the boat and they would glue it.
Mm-hmm.
This guy wrote the sketch and it was supposed to be like, it's great for cleaning up dead bodies. Well, he was not aware of his cue, forgot the sketch. He was standing in front of the backstage door, just staring at the door. And this, like, one of the other actresses comes out. She's like, all right, he's dead. He's dead. And the guy didn't make his cue. He didn't know what was going on. So I'm literally just sitting there dead on stage. I'm not even joking, for like 1 minute. And they were about to pull the lights. And then I just sit up like this, like I was after a minute of sitting there. And then I go, this scene has no ending. And then it just got this like roaring laugh because everybody in the audience knew it was a complete fuck up. But then, but it's almost like the fuck up made it feel more real. And I feel like sometimes that's why like I love internet comedies. Like, it feels real. It feels like the fuck up is real.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, for sure. Oh, that's great.
I miss those days.
And one day, maybe.
Yeah. One day, at the end of the day, too, it's forced me to kind of get better in other areas, writing more jokes online or working on scripts. I submitted a TV show to JFL's Stand Up and Pitch, and it was a finalist, and I got to pitch my TV show to like a panel of, thank you, like a panel of like network people, streaming people, and I've gotten contacts out of that and sending scripts. So I would say like, if you allow it to take you down, it's going to take you down. And it definitely did for me the first 3-4 months, or just like, well, I don't think the world's coming back, so I might as well just start, backing up everything. But then I was like, at a certain point, I was like, wait, I have time to write more now, or I don't have to commute an hour to get to work. I'm going to work from home. I can take that hour to have a coffee or meditate or write in the morning and then get to work. So I think there are pros and cons. I definitely miss going out and performing, but there are also pros of like, well, I don't have to go find 60 different props for a 1-hour sketch show.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you have the clarity of there's more stuff you can do outside of being in a live crowd, that's when it's like, oh, there's so much more stuff I can work on. I mean, there's always more stuff to work on. I mean, with this show, I mean, it used to be a live comedy show, but also I spend like 6 hours a week in Photoshop. So it's like, okay, so I can't go do a live show. I still have to do the Photoshop stuff. So it's like, okay, well, I can get better with that. I can cut my time down, and kind of relates to like, you can cut down your time with editing and learning that. And so, yeah, I mean, as long as you want to perform, you have enough stuff that you can build behind the scenes so that when you are ready to perform again, you're more well suited for it.
We were
I feel like
writing
you're taking
sketches.
advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, not at first. Now, at first, I kind of just was like, "Whoa, this is bad." Like, if my job is telling me to stay home and the theater is shut down, I'm like, better start saving all that money
Yeah.
that keeps pouring in. But like, I think the thing is that like definitely miss the live performance aspect of hearing the laughs and knowing what works.
Yeah.
I think it's, but also too, like, I think the industry was turning more towards finding digital talent anyway. So I kind of feel like kicked my butt to start doing more digital stuff, internet stuff, applying to things online rather than just doing live stuff. So
yeah,
pros and cons for sure.
I mean, that's kind of the world we live in, and that's why
Currently,
you and I are currently on Zencaster right now, drinking wine, not in person. Sam, thank you so much for doing this show. Everyone follow Sam on social media. His Twitter is gold. If you love just to the point, quick chuckles, that's what I want to call them. Not to degrade them or anything. They're to the point chuckles, and they're fun to see, and I love when I see them weekly.
So you and my mom think the same thing. So I think at this point, if Hollywood is watching, it's time to really kind of give me the next big TV show on Netflix or something. You know?
That's what I'm thinking. You've got the mom demo and whatever my demo is.
Star Wars fans, that's huge.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Virgins who live at home with their moms, who are the other demo. Great. Well, thank you all for watching and listening. Thank you, Sam, for joining the show. Follow us on social media at HADWM. Watch this show. Watch.hadwm.com. Thank you and cheers. I'm going to finish this right now.